Welcome to the Growth Bridge. I'm Ivo Castillo, your host here in Miami. This podcast is for entrepreneurs, leaders with strong ties in Latin America who want to understand how Anglo founders think about growth, leadership, decision making, and marketing, and how to apply their mindset in your own business. Today, I'm excited to have Bill Wilson. He's the founder of Rise the Lead. Hi, Bill. How are you?
I'm good, Ivo. How are you doing? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Let's start first. Our first question. What can you share a bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here, and hello everybody. So I'm originally from England. I grew up in the UK, and I trained in clinical side of medicine, actually in radiology. And then I moved to South Africa as a young man on a 2-year contract with the hospital. I met my wife and stayed there for 13 years. And in the midst of that, I switched to the corporate side of things and started selling and marketing medical imaging equipment. So my entire career has been spent in sales and marketing, medical device, life sciences. I had a couple of forays into financial services. We moved to the US a little over 30 years ago and just continued down that path. And then recently I decided to start my own business, Raise the Lid. I'm a Maxwell Leadership certified keynote speaker, a disc trainer and coach. And I focus on training and coaching business owners and cross-functional teams, especially in some of the regulated industries like life sciences.
And what does Rise the Lead really mean?
That's a great question. So I've been a student of John Maxwell, the leadership author for over 20 years now. And one of his most popular books, one of his original books, is the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And law number 1 says that an organization can only rise to the level of its leader. So the leader forms a lid on the level of the organization can raise to. So I'm all about helping people raise the lid.
Lid. Nice. Talking about leadership. What leadership pattern do you see most often holding companies back?
Leadership pattern holds companies back. I think it's a great question. I think there's two things. One is there's a big difference between leadership and management, right? People are looking for leaders; they're not looking to be managed, and oftentimes people will confuse that. Especially micromanagers, of course, get a bad rap in any industry.
Yes.
But leaders are people that have people by definition want to follow them, right? I think one of John's quotes says, if you're on your own, you're not leading anyone, you're just taking a walk. So I think that's one thing. And then I think the other thing is that, especially in this day and age, there's so much division and differing opinions and different approaches to things in the world. You really need to treat others with respect and not only lead by example, but I like to use the phrase servant leadership, right? You're there to serve others. And if you take that mindset and that approach, you'll be successful.
And when a company is stuck, how often it is a strategy versus leadership capacity?
Oh, that's the $1 million question. And there's so many different varieties of that. And that's actually why I created a tool called the Rhino Roadblocks. So, when organizations are stuck, it's an obstacle, it's a roadblock. How do you overcome that? So I created a framework called Rhino Roadblocks. And this actually has its background in a larger leadership program that I created called Wild Wisdom, Leadership Lessons from the African Bush. And it's a series of different modules, each one focused on a different animal or aspects of the African bush. It's garnered from my personal experience in South Africa, and it takes the animal kingdom and the intentional design that's being built into that, and it shows us and teaches us things about today's work environment. I mean, I'll give you an example. One of the modules is all about zebra and wildebeest. Whenever you see a herd of zebra or wildebeest, they usually intermix. So I thought, why is that? Well, when you look at them, they are both the prey of the lion. The lion loves to eat zebra and wildebeest, right? Well, it turns out the zebra's got really good eyesight. The wildebeest has really good hearing. So when the two of them hang out together, they can protect each other from being eaten by lions. So in today's work environment, of course, that translates to diversity on your team. You need different strengths on your team. Everybody can't have the same strength. It's not going to work. You need that variety on your team. Another example is the lion is one of the most successful hunters out there, but it's a cat. It spends 80% of its time sleeping. Right? If you ever
Yeah.
see a nature documentary, you always see the pride of lions like lying around in the shade, and the cubs are running around, batting the tails and playing with them, and the males and females are just batting them away, and they're just trying to rest. And yet when they go to hunt, they're incredibly successful. So in today's corporate environment, that translates to avoiding burnout. Burnout's a major problem in today's work. You've got to find time to rest and relax. You've got to find time to connect with the pride socially, whether that's your family at home or your team at work. You've got to be able to connect with them and have some fun as well. So those are just a couple of examples. One of them that I've really fleshed out and have been speaking on a lot recently is about roadblocks. And I want you to picture this. One morning, early morning, we were out on a game drive. We were in the Land Rover driving through the bush, and the ranger got a radio call. There's been a leopard kill on the other side of the park. Oh, that's great. We need to get over there. We need to see this. So we start driving through the bush, and we turn this corner, and there's these two rhinos standing in the middle of the road. Oops, now what do you do? Right?
Mm.
So, that. So I started thinking about that, and I thought, well, how does that translate to today's work environment? And obviously, we do come across roadblocks. We come across obstacles, things that are stopping us from progressing in our business. And so I created a framework that's based on the acronym Rhino, RHINO. It's a 5-step
Okay.
process that helps people really, go through a process to overcome that roadblock, to identify it, understand it, to look at different options, and then finally move forward and overcome it. So, I
Wow.
mean, if I can run through the steps quickly if that's of
Yes,
interest.
please.
The R stands for recognize the real barrier. Right? You've got to understand what the roadblock really is. And, it's important to do that. When we first turned that corner and saw those rhinos standing there, some people will tell you that, you just got to keep pushing ahead. Well, when we really looked closely, there was actually a baby rhino sitting between the two big rhinos. So, the barrier was a little bit more intricate than we'd originally thought. So the R stands for, recognize the real barrier. You want to identify the root causes, any hidden blockers that might be there. Each stands for honor, constraints, and risk. So you've got to respect some of the non-negotiables. You've got to evaluate the danger zones. Sometimes the roadblocks put there to stop us from doing something we shouldn't be doing. We shouldn't be proceeding. There's a reason for it. And especially in life sciences, where I come from, where it's a regulated industry, there's a lot of regulations that apply that, maybe that's the cause of the roadblock. And you want to, navigate it carefully without violating any of those regulations. So you've got to honor the constraints and the risk, and people will tell you, well, you have a roadblock, just push through, just put your head down and charge right through it. Well, if you did that with a couple of rhinos standing on the road that have got a baby amongst them, it's not going to end too well for you. That's not the right way to go, right? So
Yes.
the I stands for involve the right people. So this is where you've got to pull people in and help figure out what you need to do to overcome that roadblock. And there are different levels of involvement with this as well. I mean, some people just need to be aware of the problem that's going on, the obstacle. Others need to be actively involved in coming up with solutions to overcome it. And still others might be ones that actually make the decision about which one how you're going to proceed forward and overcome that roadblock. So you want to make sure you involve the right people. Going back to that example in the bush, when the Jeep came to a stop and we're looking at these rhino, the ranger didn't turn to us, the tourists, and say, okay, guys, what do you think we should do? Right?
Yes.
You've got to
Yeah,
involve the right people. He asked the tracker that was with him, okay, so now what do we do? The trackers are trained in looking at animals, understanding their disposition, how they behave. He might be aware of different ways to get around them in other parts of the bush other than just driving through this dirt road. So you've got to evaluate all those different options. That's the N, navigate options wisely. So you're going to choose the strategic pathways. Sometimes a shortcut's not the best way to go. Sometimes you need to turn around and go back the long way around. And then finally, once you've navigated those options, you've got to determine which is the best one, what's the right solution. And if you've done those first 4 steps properly, it'll become pretty evident which is the right way forward. So then the O stands for own the advance. You then got to be confident and just go forward and communicate it effectively and just step forward when the moment's right. So that's the acronym RHINO. Recognize the real barrier, honor constraints and risk, involve the right people, navigate the options wisely, and then own the advance.
And this framework, it came for the experience and constant work with your clients and see how to approach to these roadblocks. My question in that flow, that expertise that you have, so we came with this idea, we came with this framework. What was the blind spots do most executives refuse to see?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I think it depends on the situation, obviously. I think the two areas that people probably struggle with the most is the H and the I. I think most people, they recognize there's a barrier there. There may be some hidden elements to it, but they recognize there's a barrier there. Honoring those constraints and the risks, sometimes people aren't willing to accept the risk, or they're willing to take a risk that they shouldn't take. Like I say, you don't just accelerate your Jeep towards two rhinos on the road to try and get them to move. That's not going to
Yeah.
end too well for you.
Yes.
And I think also the I, involve the right people. I think especially what I see with entrepreneurial small business owners, they've developed a business themselves, they've grown it, they've nurtured it. Maybe they started out as a solopreneur, and they now need to start releasing certain aspects of the business to others.
Yeah.
You can't do everything all the time. Right. And, if you're a small business owner, there's a time when you shouldn't be doing the books anymore. Hire a bookkeeper. Right.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a time you shouldn't be doing your own marketing. Hire someone to do your social media marketing. You need to involve the right people. And I think that's hard when you're, especially for, small business owners and entrepreneurs, they see the business as their baby, and only they can do, only they know how to do it. They want to do it properly. They want to make sure it's done well. They're very protective about what they built. So they're very reluctant to involve other people. So I think
That's
those are probably the two areas. And I think the biggest one is the I.
Yeah. And just getting to your business itself, who buy your services? What kind of industry and what kind of companies buy your service?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, there's actually two really different kind of segments. One is Fortune 500, especially life science companies that
Mhm.
are developing products and services and biotechnologies and genetic testing and so on. They're a regulated industry, which I fully understand. That adds another level of complexity to everything, and they're working with cross-functional teams within their organization. I've led a number of different continuous improvement initiatives at the different companies that I've worked at that involve cross-functional teams, and it really is sometimes difficult to get the different functions on the same level. You've got finance that are just interested in, saving money, right? You've got sales and marketing that just want to get out there and sell products. You've got the regulatory organization that wants to make sure they're doing that within the regulatory guidelines. You've got R&D that's trying to develop the next generation, next cool thing out there.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
all those different pieces have got to come together to end up with a successful, for example, a new product launch. So bringing those cross-functional teams together, I do workshops that help people, peel back those layers of the onion, because not only do you have those different functions with the different outcomes and different, um, like, motives at hand, but you've also got different personalities involved. I'm also a DISC certified trainer, and I use the DISC personality profile and communication style tool to help people understand the communication differences that exist. So it's not just different, incentives that they're going after, it's different personalities. And then on top of that, you layer those regular restrictions that you have as well. It can be very complex. So that's one group that I work with. The other is just individuals that want leadership coaching. And that can be, people from those teams that I just mentioned. It could be a solopreneur, a small business owner, someone who's looking to grow, just classic leadership coaching.
And in what stage are the most of your clients in when they come to you?
Oh, they're all over the US. I mean, we can do everything remotely, just like, I'm based in the Nashville metropolitan area, so pretty central to the US. You obviously down in Miami, we can have one-on-one coaching calls like this. I've done half-day workshops remotely. If need be, I can fly into a company and do half-day or full-day workshops. Full-day workshops, you really need to be there in person. And I've done multi-day workshops as well. So keynote presentations, of course, need to be in person as well. So those are some of the ways that I deliver, my messages to the
Right.
teams involved. So yeah, I've spoken
And
at, national sales meetings and
yes.
done various things.
And another question is how bad your clients are when they come to you. Like if you given us an example, when is what's happened to them? They come to you for help.
There's so many different things, and I think overall for the for the workshops for the companies that's usually a specific project that they're working on, right? They need to they're getting ready to launch a product, or they've hit a roadblock with something and they want to help overcome that, or they've got a process that they need to improve. I've got a lot of continuous improvement certifications on top of my Maxwell training, so there are different aspects to that. And I always schedule a one-on-one call first of all, just to see, is it a good fit? Because I'm not the best fit for everybody, and not everybody's the best fit for me. So,
Yeah.
I always offer a complimentary consultation just to make sure it's a good fit. And that's especially important for the one-on-one coaching because, you have to kind of understand each other, like each other, be on the right cadence and have the right kind of, philosophical outcomes at mind. If you're not really fully aligned with that, it doesn't matter what I'm going to tell you, you're probably not going to listen. Right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. It really varies as well. And I think with the one-on-one coaching, there is no cookie cutter approach, right? People come with different scenarios. It could be a business leader that's trying to go to the next level and is struggling to release some of those functions to other people so his organization can grow. He's still trying to hold on to everything. It could be someone whose business is taking off and they don't have enough time at home with the family and they're feeling guilty about that. It could be that they have a strategic problem that they're trying to overcome. It really varies. And, that's the beauty, and that's why coaching exists. It's one-on-one coaching, and a lot of people will also say, and I want to add this as well, is they say, well, AI can solve everything. I can just go to AI and put in my problem there and it's going to give me the solution. Well, that is not really true, right?
Yeah.
AI will help. It's a tool. And, but AI doesn't replace leadership. It actually raises the bar for it, so AI can remove excuses like, I didn't have enough information, or I didn't see that coming, or oh, I didn't have time to think. Right, because you've got all the data available at your fingertips, and AI can run all these analyses really quickly, and come up with different options. But what remains is the judgment, right? AI can't judge and tell you the best option for you and your organization or the culture that you have. It can't give you the courage to take that step and move forward, right?
Yes, correct.
And, that's the in own the advanced, right? So, and people say,
Yeah.
well, what if I pick the wrong solution and I go forward to solve that problem? It was the wrong one. Okay, you just go back to R and start again, and there's another roadblock. I mean, ultimately those rhinos can move out of the road and you start off again on your journey and you turn the corner and now there's an elephant standing there. Now what do you do,
Yeah.
right? And an AI doesn't determine your character, right?
Yes.
And your values that you have, right? Or
And,
how you communicate, right? Those are key things. The human element still exists. So I think that, going back to an earlier question, that's a blind spot I sometimes see in leadership as well. People think that AI can solve everything.
and how much of the transformations depends directly of that personality?
How much of the well, it's
Because
not. I don't think it's a question of
like you said, I can give you the data to the AI. AI will give me with the answers, but I think is the missing part is the willing, right?
yeah,
And the personality and the personal touch and the experience and what your eyes can see and what you
yeah.
can hear from the right.
Yeah, exactly. And, like I mentioned, I use the DISC format for that, the personality indicators and communication styles. And, a D person, a dominant person, is going to take some information and act on it differently than a compliant person, right? The C. Right, a compliant person is going to want all of the facts, right? They have a danger of being, of overanalyzing and having, analysis paralysis. And I'm not ready to make the step because I still need more information, right? Whereas the D, the dominant person, they're more in danger of, ready, fire, aim, right?
Yeah.
So they want to jump and do something before they've got all the information. So the different personality styles certainly play into that. And that's why I use that DISC methodology to help understand the personality style of who you're working with so that you can then coach them and direct them effectively. And also going back to the team workshops, I always have everyone on the team go through that DISC personality indicator as well so that they understand each other. Because sometimes you get those aha moments where someone on the team says, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't care about me. He just keeps asking me about the data and he doesn't care about me as a person. And once they realize, no, that's just the style they are and they're different from you, then it really removes a barrier to them communicating and performing effectively as a team.
Bill, let's move on a little bit more about knowing your business and how you perform as a owner. How do you market yourself?
How do I market myself? That's a great question. I use LinkedIn a lot because it's
Okay.
professional, networking. I publish information. I just like getting the word out. I speak on podcasts like this,
Hmm.
helping people. If I can give someone some tidbits of information, a couple of key things that they can use, that they can implement, that they can take and use right there and then, whether that's through a podcast, whether it's a video that I record and post, or whether it's an article that I've written or a comment I'm making on somebody else's post. I just like to go out there and just add value to other people and give them tidbits. And what I find is that if they see enough and they learn enough, then they say, oh, I want more. How can I go deeper on this? That's a really good point. I never thought about that. How can I get more information on that? So that's how I tend to market myself, and I think that goes back to the servant leadership, right? If you can give someone something of value, then if it's appropriate for them, they're going to want more. If it's not, then they're probably not, and that's okay.
If you double your demand tomorrow of clients, what will break first?
What would break first? Oh, that's a great question. So I think I hadn't really thought about that, but we're constantly juggling, finding new clients, working with existing clients, preparing for workshops, getting ready for that next coaching call. If my demand doubled, I would just probably have to push out. No, it sounds how I not push out the pipeline, but I would have to just build the backlog a little bit or work longer hours. I'm fortunate that I don't work, I don't work excessive hours right now. I've got
Yeah.
some flexibility in my schedule. I'm at that stage of life where we have grandkids and I love just going hanging out with them and going to their gymnastics meets and so on. I would just give up some of those if it was a short-term thing. But again, if it doubles, then it goes back to that wild will, the wild wisdom lessons from the African bush. What does the lion do? You've still got to have that time. You don't want to burn out. So ultimately, I would have to say no to some things, and
Yes,
that's
and
okay, you know?
that's
Yeah, and that's
yeah,
okay, because if you say yes to everything and I burn out, then I'm no good to anyone, right? So I'd rather be of use to 75% than be of no use to 100%.
correct. And what part of your own business feel most constrained right now?
Part of my own business is the most constrained right now. I think, it's getting the word out about the wild wisdom. This is a new executive leadership program that I'm just launching. So I'm like
Hmm.
launching the product. Rhino Roadblocks is one of the modules on there. I have other modules that I'm still developing. And I've got some modules that are ready to go. So it's that juggling between delivering what I've got and creating what's coming next, because I love both pieces of it. So which one do I give my
Yeah.
attention to?
So that make me this next question is what slows down your ability to grow faster?
What slows down my ability to go faster? I tend to be a perfectionist. So
Okay.
I'm always like tweaking and fine tuning things. And I've learned to, not be as much of a perfectionist anymore. You still want to deliver quality and you still want to have high integrity and really deliver value, but it doesn't have to be, absolutely perfect. And in fact, what I've learned is that as you're dealing with individuals, as you're dealing with different teams in different businesses, there are so many variables there anyway that what's perfect for one is not perfect for another.
And what part of your workflow then is automated?
A lot of my back end office stuff, lead generation, calendar, bookings, a lot of that is automated. Some of the content creation is
Yeah.
automated for my social media posts. I like to but what I do is I focus on that. I have a theme every month. So, towards the end of the month, I'm focusing on the following month and I'm creating the content. And then I'll spend a little bit of time right at the beginning of the month getting everything ready to go. And then
Yeah.
everything's automated for the rest of the month. So that frees me up to continue working with people for a couple of weeks before you start thinking about the next month. I'm not worried about, oh, what am I going to post today? Because by the
Yes.
time the end of this week comes, everything's mapped out for the whole of March.
Yeah. And in the operations wise, in operations, there is something that did you automate? I don't know. The frameworks, the approach or to discovery any of their issues with the clients or something like that?
Yeah, what is automated is the email campaigns, the drip campaigns. You want to give it the marketing term. You,
Yeah.
you get a lot of people that say, "Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of that before." I'm not quite ready for that now, but I'm interested. Let me sign up for your newsletter. Let me get some. Let me stay connected. That part is good to automate as well because it just keeps going until they're ready to come on to the next step.
And talking about a little bit of automation and AI, where does AI for you create leverage and where does it create noise?
That's a good question, and sometimes the two come together. Uh, yeah, I think I think leverage is researching the like I mentioned before about the zebra and the wildebeest. And, AI was very useful in helping determine why'd you find zebra and wildebeest together? Doing that research was really fairly quick using AI tools in
Yeah,
understanding that because it's got access to all the nature documentaries that have ever been done and everything that's ever been written about zebra and wildebeest and so on, where it's very helpful. Where it creates noise, I think, is going back to what I said before about the human element, right? That the judgment, the communication, the character, my personal style needs to come through in the work that I'm doing. And if you're not careful, AI can try and take that over. And sometimes I find that it's trying to put forward things. I think, oh, that sounds good. And then when you think about it, you think, that sounds good, but that's not me. That's not how I would say that. I don't really believe that. I think others may want to believe that, but I don't think I really believe that. Right. So
yes,
that integrity comes in. And if you're not careful, that noise from AI can overwhelm it. And then you lose the authenticity.
that's great. That's correct. I think the same way. It's just,
Mm.
you have to curate it. It doesn't work
Yeah.
by itself.
Yeah.
In the next 12 months, what will be the hardest for you in your business?
What would be the hardest in the next 12 months? I think the hardest task that I want to complete, but it would take a lot of time and would take a lot of from the other things is that ultimately I want to write a book. I want Wild Wisdom to be a book. So, but I know that takes time and it takes a lot of resources, developing manuscripts and editing and so on. So that would be the hardest thing for me to try and accomplish in the next 12 months. I think I've got so many other things that I need to do, even though some people are telling me you should write the book. I'm like, okay, when I get there, I see myself as a speaker and a coach, not as an author.
And if you could eliminate one operational headache, what it would be?
One operation headache, bookkeeping and taxes.
Yeah, every single thing. Thing.
Yeah.
My God, that came from another answer, but you already answered. I wanna ask you again. How do you know when to say no to a client?
That's $1 million question. And I think it becomes evident again, I don't jump into anything without doing some kind of due diligence and research first. And, part of that is a preliminary introductory call. and just understanding each other's values and what it is you're looking to accomplish. I think if that's not a good fit, it probably becomes a pretty obvious no. If that is a good fit, then it depends on what they're looking to accomplish. I mean, sometimes a client will come to me and they'll say, because of my background, I'm trying to launch this product. It's a regulated, medical device, and I need help on navigating, the regulatory industry. I'm not a consultant. I'll just say no. I'll refer them to someone who's a, regulatory consultant, or even I need to put together a group of key opinion leaders to get the thought leadership out there and get ahead of this for my marketing. That's not what I do. So sometimes if it's the personality or the type of values that the people or the company has, and then it's what it is they're looking to accomplish. If it's something that I feel I can help, then I'll say yes. If I don't
Correct.
feel I can help, or if I feel that somebody else would be better suited to help them, it's not that I couldn't do those things. It's just I think other people are better suited, and I'm better suited to doing something else and taking that time and taking it somewhere else. My mindset is very simply, I've always lived, my entire career to add value to others. I love teaching, helping, coaching people, whether that's coaching my little kids on the soccer field when they were growing up, when they were younger, or football field, I should say, whether it's doing that, whether it's helping salespeople be better salespeople and perform better when I was, in the corporate world, or whether it's coaching an individual to be a better leader and better communicator, or whether it's, doing a workshop with a cross-functional team to overcome roadblock, conquer that next challenge and take the business to the next level. Whatever it is, I love helping people move forward. I really believe that if you're not growing, you're actually dying. There's no such thing as staying the same.
And as entrepreneur, what decision you made that changed the trajectory of your business?
I think I made the transition from the corporate world to Raise the Lid to coaching. I got certified, and I did that while I was still in the corporate world. And I started doing a few things kind of on the side. I started working on the Wild Wisdom system and started developing some of that. I started writing and publishing for my business, but I was still working in the corporate world. I think when I made the decision to
Mhm.
remove and release myself from that security blanket or handcuffs, depending on which way you look at it,
Yeah,
and just focus 100% on Raise the Lid, that's where things went to a whole new level.
your focus.
Yeah, focus. And that's what the cheetah's all about. In Wild Wisdom, the cheetah is all about focus.
Why? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So, well, the cheetah is the fastest animal on the planet.
Yes.
And yeah, the cheetah takes its time, focuses on a prey, and then sprints after it. So it's all about, disciplined focus, strategic prioritization, but also that kind of goes a little bit to, back to the lion, the sprint and recover cycles. You've got to do
Yeah.
these sprints, but you've got to have time to recover. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful in your next sprint, right? And it's also about precision. The cheetah will pick an animal out of the herd, and then when it breaks cover, it's going to focus on that one animal, and it will let the rest of the herd run away. And you
Yeah.
you can see images of it runs right past another animal going after the one it's focused at. He goes, well, why didn't it stop and take that one out? It was closer, right? Because it's focused. So that's the way the cheetah operates. And what that helps to do is it helps teams to move fast, but only toward what matters. Right? And it helps you avoid frenzied activity and burnout from constant urgency, but also poor prioritization. You've got to prioritize which is the one thing I'm going to go after. That's what the focus is all about.
Now, our last question, Bill. If you could give us one piece of advice to founders build their teams, what it would be?
I think simply kind of going back to what I said at the beginning, be a servant leader, right? Treat others with respect, treat others the way you want to be treated. And, just be willing to do whatever it takes for the good of the team, and you'll be successful.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
I've really enjoyed this. Thank you for your time, Ivo. Hope this was
Thank you,
useful,
viewers.
and thank
Thank you,
you.
viewers. Thank you, and see you next time.